Good afternoon, I'm Mike Duffy. We're following breaking news impacting millions across Northern California. And many of you may be watching us online right now because of the current PG&E power shutoffs. We want to make sure you're kept up to date on everything that's happening. Plus, we have two major fires still burning in both sides of the state. We'll get you up to speed on both of those fires. But first, let's check in on those PG&E shutoffs. The utility restored power to more than 500,000 customers last night. But today, another round of shutoffs. The third one in a week and the fourth in a month, all because of gusty winds and dry conditions combined with a heightened fire risk. PG&E says this latest blackout will affect over 1 million people in 29 counties. It's not quite as big as the event this weekend, but still one of the largest PG&E power shutoffs ever.
To put the two events in perspective, the one we just went through and the one that we're heading into, the wind component of this event looks weaker than the event we just came out of, but the fuels will be drier, and so the fuel component looks a little greater.
Now let's go over to meteorologist Carly Gomez. How are those winds right now, Carly?
Yeah, we're looking at winds anywhere from 20 to 30 miles per hour in the Yolo County area and starting to pick up if you're in the areas closer to coastal range, maybe Fairfield near Vacaville. We're starting to look at those winds picking up. They started up right around lunchtime. We're going to continue to see them ramping up into the evening hours today. Now, the strongest late night winds are going to start up right around 8 p.m. and continue overnight. That's when we can expect some of the winds to even reach 35 to 60 mile per hour gusts. So they are going to get pretty gusty out there. Now, this isn't going to be the same exact event as we saw on Sunday. It's still going to be very strong, but we are looking at a bit of a shift in the winds closer toward the east. Now, after tomorrow, there's really no big wind event in the forecast for quite a while, at least as far out as we can see. All right, a low pressure system right over Idaho right now. We're looking at a jet stream right underneath it. Now, just over toward the west, a high pressure system. The two are going to be pushing up against each other once again. This happened the exact same way on Sunday. The difference here is that this low has shifted just a bit toward the east. That also shifts the jet stream toward the east just a bit more. That's going to target more areas of the Sierra versus targeting straight into the areas of Sonoma like we saw on Sunday. So a lot of many areas across Northern California really are going to start seeing a lot of these strong winds, but we are looking at a bit of a shift, and the pressure has decreased slightly compared to Sunday. We saw a higher pressure gradient then than we are looking at now. So yes, still big strong wind event, but just slightly lighter. All right, let's take a look at what's happening. We're looking at the rotation of the winds. That's why we're also looking at a northerly to easterly wind coming in as we continue in overnight. That is, again, targeting areas of the valley toward the Sierra. We'll continue to see it also targeting the coastal range. Now, this is leading to fire impacts as we will see this red flag warning remain in effect until Wednesday, 4 p.m. This is a massive area north of Redding all the way down towards San Francisco, except Yosemite has been left out of that just a bit, as we'll start to see most of the targeted areas here toward the coastal ranges and toward the Sierra, where the gusts could reach anywhere from 30 to 60 miles per hour. We'll see humidity pretty much the same as what we saw on Sunday, 8 to 15%, and it's already dropping today. Now, this is leading to rapid fire spread. Like we know, we kept seeing the pop-up fires on Sunday. Just when you see one fire, you notice another one popped up later. And we saw a lot of the grass fires also on roadways, on freeways, maybe at your exit. You had to see detours there. We could see that once again, and that's why this is so dangerous. Embers could just completely fly into another area just a mile away, start up a new fire. And we're also looking at these current humidities dropping. We're already down to about 16%. The threshold in Northern California, much of the West Coast, is 15%. So that's pretty much all we can handle is around 15%. We're already looking at areas a little lower than that, 13% in Fairfield, 18% Marysville. A lot of these are expected to continue dropping into the evening and moving into Wednesday. All right, let's talk about the winds. That's been the biggest factor. You've been noticing the trees falling in your neighborhood. You've noticed the roadways out there still have a bunch of branches all over the place. And then your friend's patio furniture is all the way across the street, right? This is what we're looking at right now, is that the winds are starting to pick up. You notice that greenish yellow shade there. We're right around the 20 mile per hour range to 30 mile per hour range. And now it's starting to ramp up toward the Sierra. Like I mentioned, we're going to see that first, and we're going to expect to see a stronger event event for the Sierra this time as opposed to the coastal range. So we'll see anywhere from 30 to 40 miles per hour currently just north of Truckee. Now this is starting to expand as we move into the afternoon hours. In just about an hour and a half, we'll see some of these colors becoming that 50 mile per hour range in that purple shade there for areas north of Truckee and into the Sierra. We'll fast forward just a bit. Now you notice that shift. The color starts to take over areas of the coastal range. Then you start to see just near the Kincaid fire some of that purple pink shade once again. So 40-50 mile per hour winds, but still the strongest of the winds this time now for the Sierra, as you'll continue to see most of that purple remain toward the east. Now we're looking at some of these winds picking up again, anywhere from 25 to 35 mile per hour sustained winds. That's a duration of 3+ hours or more. And then the gusts could reach up to 60 miles per hour. Those gusts anywhere from about 5 to 15 seconds. It doesn't really come to an end until we reach about lunchtime Wednesday. You still see a few spots out there with just a bit of a wind pickup. Otherwise, everything kind of expires right when that red flag warning expires at 4 p.m. So that's what we're looking into in the next 24 hours. Now let's talk about the peak wind gusts. Now today, we've only really reached about 32 mile per hour peak wind gusts near Fairfield. Just earlier, I did see a number at 40 near Oakland and even 125 for areas near the Santa Cruz Mountains. So, of course, that's not in our area, but we are looking at some areas still seeing peak wind gusts already in the day. All right, let's talk about location wind speeds because we will see some areas that are going to be higher than others. Now, the coastal range anywhere from 20 to 25 mile per hour winds sustained. The valley looking at 30 to 35 mile per hour sustained winds. And then the eastern foothills, we could see up to 45 miles per hour. Again, the gusts anywhere at 35 to 50 and even 60 mile per hour wind gusts. So just keep that in mind. Let's talk air quality because everyone's concerned about that with the winds pushing some of that bad air quality into your area, maybe into the valley. We'll see some moderate air conditions for Sacramento, Yolo, Solano. We don't have the fires really burning north of us to let all of that smoke into the valley. We'll see some El Dorado, Placer counties looking good so far, but San Joaquin, Stanislaus could see some unhealthy for sensitive groups air quality, so keep that in mind as well. All right, let's talk about the 10-day because we are not heating up. Yes, it's dry outside. You always kind of correlate dry weather and heat. In this case, we're just looking at dry weather and the temperatures dropping, especially overnight. You may have felt that the other night. It reached near record cold temperatures around 37 degrees. So it got really cold overnight as we moved into Monday morning. 71 for your Tuesday's high, and then we'll continue with the upper 60s, low 70s through the work week before we start hitting the weekend in the mid 70s moving into Monday. So we're looking at very cold overnight lows, Mike, in the upper 30s to low 40s, but we will continue to see temperatures right around average for this time of year.
All right, thanks, Carly. So some parts of Nevada County will not see the power come back on from the last power shutoff, and that means they could be without power for a week. Meanwhile, in Nevada City, some people have power and some do not. So it's created some challenges. For one family, kids are just trying to make sure they're on pace to finish all of their schoolwork. But that's not easy with everything from the power off to their lack of Wi-Fi. It's actually just a part of a long list of things one family Ananda Rochita talked to has to deal with.
It's been a few days of fun for siblings Emily and Bradley. From more time playing at home outside and at school.
There's this flashlight that it helps you to look and you have to write, and it helps you to write.
If only we could live life as a 4- and 5-year-old. But this power shutoff for grown-ups like their parents is nothing close to fun.
You can't do your laundry, you can't use your refrigerator, you can't use your air conditioning if it's hot.
The Faust family is dealing with their 4th power shutoff in just a few weeks. The first blackout, they left town. The second time, they got a generator. It's to help power the well, too.
One of the biggest things is honestly keeping just the lights in the refrigerator going and TVs for kids. I mean, it's hard to entertain kids, 4 kids with no power.
But the biggest challenge on the top of Heather and Brian's minds is Brian's business.
Really crazy because it's like a ghost town.
With the power out, the machines have stopped at his sheet metal company.
Well, today I had to actually buy from another shop. I had to buy products that we typically build to fulfill orders, and I had to buy it at a cost of actually more than what I sell it for.
Generators to power all these machines are not an option financially. It would cost at minimum $100,000, and he keeps losing money with each blackout.
It hasn't been going on long enough to really pencil everything out, but I know that I'm losing. It's in the thousands a day, not being able to do anything here at the shop.
The effects of the blackout are making them think if moving may be the best decision for the family.
If there's enough proof there that there's not going to be a resolution to this anytime soon, then that may be enough to push me out of California.
PG&E will be keeping its community resource centers open across the state. They're open from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. It's a free place for people to go to charge their phones and their devices, and we have a list of locations on abc10.com as well. If you're watching right now online, perhaps your power's out, so here are some things that you can do right now to protect your home.
Unplug or turn off your appliances. Leave a single lamp on to alert you when the power does come back on. Use generators, camp stoves, or charcoal grills outdoors only. And check on your neighbors. For people dependent on medical devices, these shutoffs are not just inconvenient, they can be dangerous.
Now, we know the question on a lot of people's minds is, will anyone who lost their power during these shutoffs actually get their money back? Governor Newsom said he wanted a $100 credit on PG&E bills for every house switched off and $250 for every business account. But PG&E keeps saying it won't pay this at all. It's been a back and forth for weeks now. So Brandon Ritteman asked Governor Newsom if he's going to try to make PG&E pay.
My understanding is PG&E already has its first certificate under 1054. How do you square that with the fact we've got CAL FIRE tape around one of their towers right now for this Kincaid fire?
Well, they have annual certification, safety certification that is required, and PUC can talk to that process, but we're putting this advisory committee up. We're putting the new safety division up. All of that happens in January, and that will create a protocol, a completely different protocol than the one that exists today.
I understand. To some people, they're going to see that we've got a state seal of approval that you're one of the safe operators, and right now they're being looked at as the cause of this fire.
Yeah, well, we're doubling down on this, and you can look to the specifics of our legislation and what's going in place in January, and it is a completely new day. Anybody else?
Governor Newsom has also announced a $75 million program to help people affected by these shutoffs. $37.5 million will be allocated to cities aimed at helping businesses that have lost money. The program will give the other half of the money to state agencies and departments to make sure public services stay available. And we've been talking about PG&E shutoffs just about all month. They say they're doing this to prevent fires. But now PG&E is under investigation for starting some fires. Yesterday, they told the federal judge overseeing their probation that CAL FIRE is investigating if the Kincaid fire started because of a transmission tower. PG&E told state regulators last week there was a problem on a tower that was still energized, and a few minutes later, the Kincaid fire started in that same area. And yesterday, the company told state regulators its equipment may have also started 2 small fires in the Bay Area. PG&E says it responded to the fires just before 5 yesterday. Firefighters think contact between a power line and a communication line may have caused it. There was another fire blocks away about an hour later, and firefighters are now investigating to see if a transformer is to blame for that fire. Keep in mind, we do not know yet if PG&E lines really did start these fires. Fire investigators will be the ones to decide. All right, now let's get you up to date on the fires burning in both northern and southern California. Down south, the Getty fire is forcing people from their homes. The fire gets its name because it's burning near the Getty Center Museum, not far from the 405 freeway. The latest update, the LA Fire Department said this blaze has grown to 658 acres and is 5% contained. We're sad to say at least 8 homes have been destroyed and another 6 have been damaged. And the massive Kincaid fire burning in Sonoma County continues to grow. It's reached more than 75,000 acres and is just 15% contained. 124 structures have been destroyed, 57 of them were homes, and more than 90,000 structures remain threatened. Some people were able to get back to their homes in some areas last night, but firefighters urged everyone to be prepared to evacuate if it was needed again. And earlier this morning, CAL FIRE shared the latest news on the Kincaid fire. Carlos Herrera has the details.
Well, the fire here continues to grow, burn, and even continue destroying and damaging homes. This is one of them in Windsor, right on Chalk Hill. an area that saw a lot of homes destroyed. It's now burned to the ground. All that's left is ashes and debris. And this morning, crews have been focusing on protecting homes, especially here in Windsor and in Shiloh Ridge. Crews were able to get a better handle yesterday since the wind wasn't as big of a problem. But CAL FIRE says another round of strong wind gusts hitting the area right now through later this afternoon is a big concern because it gives the fire a chance to grow. The goal for crews today is to secure the fire from the west and south and keep it as far away as they can from homes.
The fuels are critically dry. They are receptive to new fire as well as fire spread. So as we see the challenges with the weather, we have influences of heavy fire spread issues being at a rate of erratic and dangerous. And so we need to make sure that we're aware of any new starts or any fire behavior that we see out there today from this fire is going to be dangerous and erratic.
Some evacuation orders have been downgraded for parts of western Sonoma County, but in other areas they've been expanded. Sonoma County officials want to remind people to heed those evacuation orders and to check in at any of the evacuation centers to stay out of the cold weather expected throughout the day.
Take care of each other. Can't stress this enough. Check on your neighbors. Offer support to those who need it. We'll recover from this event, and we'll do it the best if we can do it together. And as always, I want to reiterate my thanks to all the first responders and our colleagues from across the state who have come here to help us with this event, and also thank our state and federal partnerships. It's been nothing short of spectacular. Thank you.
Even though CAL FIRE is expecting those strong winds in the area, they hope that they don't spark multiple spot fires and make significant progress with the fire today. We'll send it back over to you.
Governor Gavin Newsom is expected to give a press conference in Southern California anytime now about the status of these fires and what's being done. So as soon as he begins talking, we'll go to that. But first, we wanted to tell you about other stories that we have been covering. Governor Newsom traveled to Southern California earlier today. So as I said, he is waiting to give this press conference, and he's down by that Getty fire. He's going to address the media, and we'll get to that shortly. But first, I believe Kevin John was in Santa Rosa last night, where evacuations are still in place. For many in this neighborhood, this situation is all too familiar.
Like the kids still get nightmares about the fire. And then with this fire, it triggered everything.
This situation is all too familiar for Ben Hernandez.
Just, it's crazy, kind of numbing and just eerie that it could happen again. But here I am.
Just 2 years ago, Ben was living here in Coffey Park when his home was destroyed by the Tubbs fire.
Just devastating, broke down. When we came back like the next morning, I wanted to see what happened, and it was emotional, very emotional. We lost all our photos and baby pictures, so that's the hardest.
Ben and his family got a fresh start back in July when they moved into their brand new home. But now Ben finds himself in yet another predicament. With the threat of the Kincaid fire looming, Coffey Park is now located in a mandatory evacuation zone. However, Ben has no plans on leaving. In fact, he has a hose ready to protect his home shall flames come close.
I just can't leave. I just want to be in my home. That's where I feel safe. So we're kind of writing it out.
In the meantime, they're remaining optimistic that they won't have to witness their community being burnt down for a second time.
Hopefully they get a handle on it and the winds don't pick up, I guess, tomorrow. So hopefully we'll be good.
All right, let's go to meteorologist Carly Gomez. What are you tracking right now, Carly?
Yeah, we're tracking winds, humidity, and even some of the temperature, but mostly the winds right now. Let's take a look because I want you to see this camera. It is shaking, and you can see every now and then it really gets a big gust of wind, and you can see that camera continue to shake pretty hard. Now, we are looking at some of these winds now reaching about 20 miles per hour. Now, low 70s to upper 60s, even mid 60s right now in Modesto. Take a look at that wind just shaking everything. Tahoe at 46. Now, let's get to the wind, because they have really started up as of lunchtime, and we'll continue to see them picking up through the evening. So your evening commute home, if you are in the foothills and the Bay Area, or excuse me, the foothills and the Sierra, I should say, you're going to look at your commute home with strong winds. We're talking anywhere from 30 to 40 mile per hour wind gusts starting to pick up, and 20 to 30 mile per hour winds in areas of the foothills and towards the Sierra. Now, this is just as of now. We're looking at some strong winds now in Sacramento at 23 miles per hour, 20 in Marysville, 23 in Fairfield, already picking up Oroville at 15 miles per hour. And we'll continue to see that shaking of the camera there all through the evening hours and overnight as the winds are expected to pick up anywhere from 30 to 60 miles per hour as we move through tonight. All right, we're going to take a look at that press conference with Newsom.
To the extraordinary leadership in Los Angeles, led by your mayor, police chief, and obviously remarkable talent that is demonstrable with your fire chief and the men and women of the LA Fire Department. To the city council members, members of our state Senate, we're very grateful for all of your leadership as well. This has been a tough week. As Mayor Garcetti said, this has been a long week. Fires in San Diego, fires here in Los Angeles. For the Getty, it was the tick fire that generated a lot of consternation, a lot of stress. In Northern California right now, it's the Kincaid fire. Let me put the Kincaid fire in perspective. Over 4,000 personnel are working on that fire as we speak. We have now mutual aid from close to a dozen states that have come in to help support the efforts up north. 75 engines have come down just from Oregon, 25 from Washington State, others from states as far as Montana to help support our efforts. That fire is north of 75,000 acres, and it has a direct track in and around the Hillsburg area, Windsor area, and because of the changing winds, has been moving back into Lake County, not just Sonoma County, and we are working hard to make sure that we secure the perimeter, because not dissimilarly to the Santa Ana winds that you'll be experiencing later this evening and early tomorrow in Northern California, the winds are about to come back up later this afternoon into the evening and through tomorrow. So this is a challenging time. 43 counties in the state of California were experiencing red flag warnings. We're experiencing at or near historic wind events that precipitated in a statewide emergency declaration that we advanced 48 hours ago. That should overlay the support that was previously provided in 2 localized states of emergency that we advanced here in Los Angeles and in the northern part of the state. We've also received what we refer to as FMAGs, 3 federal management assistant grant applications from the federal government, not only for the Getty fire specifically, but for the tick fire and the Kincaid fire. Why that matters is that is demonstrable, specific support from the federal government. And just on that, I want to make this point as well. FEMA has been extraordinary. Trump administration has been extraordinarily supportive and helpful. Every request we've made has been granted. That support has come in real time, and the cooperation and collaboration continues. In the spirit of the chief's comments, it's all about mutuality. It's all about a broader commonwealth. It's about, dare I say, our humanity. And these are the moments when humanity is at scale, where people aren't focused on their differences, are focused on supporting one another, not just the men and women in uniform, but also community leaders. Leaders defined not just by people in positions of formal authority, but people that are exercising their leadership by demonstrating their moral authority to help neighbors with evacuations, to make sure seniors are taken care of, to make sure that they're down volunteering at this local shelter, providing resources and food. Dozens and dozens of shelters are open up north. We had at peak 180,000 people that were evacuated in the northern part of the state. So totality over 200,000 at peak over the last few days. We're down to about 130,000, and we're expecting hopefully an update in the next hour or so in the northern part of the state as people are beginning to repopulate. Final point. What's made more challenging at this moment is not just the fires, which, by the way, interestingly, and this is cold comfort from those that have been directly impacted by the ferocity of the Getty fire, by the ferocity of Kincaid. The fact is, the fires this year have been relatively modest compared to previous years. The fires we're experiencing this time of year have only on the slight edge of above average. This is not remarkably one of those years that we've become so familiar with, 2018, Woolsey, the Camp Fire, 2017, and the Thomas Fire, in 2015 and 14. I also want to make one final point, and that is, unlike baseball, the men and women in uniform, they don't get credit for saves. And I want to just make this point. 324 fires were taken down by CAL FIRE alone in the last 24 hours. 654 in the last 48 hours that are not headlines in the state of California. That's because of the extraordinary work of the mutual aid system, the extraordinary talent that is Mark Ghilarducci and our Office of Emergency Service, and because this hand-in-glove partnership that's been at scale advanced over the course of decades that's really proving itself at this moment. $1 billion was put in additional resources for new fire suppression equipment, new pre-positioning, and just on that point, pre-positioning has really paid dividends this year. We have 106 engines throughout the region pre-positioned. We'll continue to be vigilant, not just on the Getty fire and making sure none of these embers start sparking back up, but a lot of the folks that are working on this fire are also going to be back pre-positioned in their communities, in Fillmore, in Ventura, Oxnard, and elsewhere, making sure that we're vigilant as these Santa Ana winds come forward, as they do typically this time of year. So I'm a very proud governor, because I'm very proud of this state and its resiliency. I'm very proud of the work of our local law enforcement agencies and community leaders, and nothing substitutes for outstanding elected leadership. And Mayor Garcetti is one of the best in our state and our country, and I just want to thank him for all of his extraordinary work as well. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much, Governor. Thank you for detailing and putting in perspective what happens every single day.
You just heard Governor Newsom there giving an update about the status of the fires burning around the state, namely the Getty and the Kincaid fires. He did say that there's been an extraordinary outpouring of support from both FEMA and from the Trump administration. He wanted to make it clear that at the peak of all of these fire evacuations, over 200,000 people had been evacuated. He hopes that the news of the next 24 hours will actually improve that so more people can return to their homes. But interestingly, he also tried to reassure people, giving them a little bit of comfort in the midst of all this. He said that these fires are in fact modest compared to previous years. It's kind of hard to see that in the middle of everything that we're going through right now. But he said the firefighting agencies deserve a lot of credit right now because we don't really recognize them for the fires that actually didn't happen. He said just in the last 24 hours, over 345 fires have been put out and over 600 fires in the last 48 hours. And he accredited a lot of that to pre-positioning of resources and money that was invested before this fire season began. So we're going to continue to pay attention to what is coming out of that press conference. As you heard, the mayor of the LA area is also speaking right now. We'll get more of updates throughout the day and we'll continue to bring you those. But of course, it's not just the fires that are causing problems in our area. It's also those PG&E power shutoffs. And once again, because of widespread dry offshore wind events happening throughout today and tomorrow, PG&E is implementing its public safety power shutoffs to almost 600,000 customers in northern and southern Sierra, North Bay, Bay Area, Santa Cruz Mountains, North Coast, and Kern County. As of 1 p.m., approximately 500,000 customers are without power. Also, about 400,000 customers who were originally impacted by the last power outage are still without service. PG&E expects the next round of shutoffs to start at 4 p.m., and the counties impacted will be Alpine, Amador, Calaveras, and Tuolumne. We'll continue to cover this throughout the day. We know a lot of you are watching because on your phones, mobile devices, and online because of your power shutoffs. We appreciate you being with us, and we continue to try to bring you the latest updated information. But for right now, we'll sign off and we'll see you later today.